best entertainment on the earth. Tune in for Comics with Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. We talk a lot about how movies should be driving more of the comic sales, but have movies infected comics with a different problem? And it's a deeper topic. I think there is some wisdom and some logic to the idea of did the MCU, for example, becoming so popular, have a negative effect on comics in a lot of different ways. We're going to talk about one specifically, but I've also started to wonder about just the comic books kind of letting their foot off the gas in terms of being creative. If all the money and all the attention and all the effort is going to be on the movies, then, if you're the comics, what is your role anymore? How much, how willing are you to really kind of go out and build that epic story? I think it's a personality type. I think there's some writers who will look at that situation and go, hey, there's a lot of ground for me to do something incredible. I think you look at Philip Kennedy Johnson and what he's doing with Action Comics, completely different from any kind of Superman movie that's come out or any representation of Superman currently on the big screen. And likely, although it would be a fun movie, I can't imagine them, creating a movie like this. If they did, it would be incredibly shortened. It would kind of ruin the effect of what he's doing. But he's doing the comic anyway, and it feels like a big swing. It feels like an epic film. Same thing for Jeff Thorne's Green Lantern. I know some of you don't like it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I felt like it was, a big swing to do major things with Jon Stewart, and it did. But none of these things wouldn't make a good movie either. I mean, you can do a long form TV series, but you have to know that there's very little likelihood of that. But some people, I think, are faced with a situation and go out there and just try and swing for the fences and do their best because they want to, make their own mark on the medium. Other people, I think, would come into that situation and go, well, nothing I do here really matters. The movies is where all the attention is, so I'll just kind of fill these pages, fill time. I have a 6-issue run. That's a job, and I think you see examples of some of that out there as well. But this specific question is asking for a very specific aspect to the movies and to the comics. So here it goes. It says, hey Perch, love your show. Thank you for putting out all the videos. Helps pass the time. I've noticed in the MCU with the movies, every character quips. They all have a sense of humor. They all tell jokes. Even when it's very dry, very boring Steve Rogers, he still starts to quip and make little jokes, like Spider-Man does in the comics. But that's how all the characters in the MCU is. They all make jokes. They all crack funny while they're trying to beat up villains. I've noticed that the comics are all starting to do this too. Characters that never used to make funny jokes and quip, and villains who would quip back, never used to be a thing except for a couple of characters. Now almost all of them are doing it. Is this a case where the MCU and the movies have ruined comics? Well, I don't know about ruined comics. I think, again, comics can be unruined as easily as they're ruined. But I think that I agree with that question. I agree with that sentiment. I do think that, because I put it this way, I just caught up on some comics, and I went through Captain Marvel, and I went through Spider-Woman, and I went through, got a couple of Silk, and what else did I do? Now they're forgettable. I went through several Marvel. Hawkeye. I caught up on the Kate Barton Hawkeye series. So I went through all these comics that are there. And what I picked up on, and maybe it was just the misfortune of reading all those at once, even the Carnage issue, there's Carnage #1, and there's also Carnage, the prequel, kind of before they got to it. And the prequel was okay. I mean, the stories were fine, and Carnage felt mostly like Carnage. But Carnage is a lot more, Carnage always kind of, chatted and did kind of evil, sinister, serial killer villain quipping, if you will. But when you read the others, like Spider-Woman was just atrocious. I mean, that was a painful comic to get through. It is, every panel is a pun or a joke on a name, and it's like Spider-Man jokes, but like really groan-inducing dad jokes with Spider-Woman, but not just her. All of the sidekicks are making jokes. The captions are making jokes. The people who are narrating the book The villains are all making jokes. Everybody is just kind of quipping away, and it is awful. Um, it is. I don't. It killed the story, and the story was meant to be Spider Woman goes up against like 9 villains, and they've all kind of teamed up to take her out. And they're not major villains. All of them are kind of jokey, B list, C list villains. But all the same, you've got the artist drawing pictures of Spider Woman getting just smashed in the face, blood dripping out from everywhere, splattering in a pool of her own blood. She breaks multiple arms during the book, and the problem is you're reading through this. I mean, the art's fine. It's just the story comes across like the writer had very little imagination, because it's like dad joke, dad joke, dad joke, break an arm, dad joke, break another arm, and it's like what you're reading this going, just what in the hell happened here? What is going on? And it's a painful book. And then you flip over to Hawkeye, and it's the same thing again. And these characters are all, especially the newer ones, are written to be kind of jokey, too cool for school. I am. There's a phrase I haven't said in a while, but just anyway, they're very. It's that movie sarcasm, but the difference is the movie still knew how to raise the stakes and do something, make it feel like some dangerous things were going on. The quips were there to kind of break the tension. And in many cases, there were too many of those in the movies as well. It did lighten it, but they play nice to normies and everything else who just want to watch and kind of be entertained by this film. But still, you do have very kind of dangerous moments where the characters know enough to shut up because the threat seems really real. Thanos, isn't being dispatched with a bunch of jokes. Captain Marvel, when she in Endgame, when she races over and she's trying to pry the glove off of Thanos, she's not making a joke about his purple skin at the time. She's it looks like she's fighting for her life. There are some jokes in the movies, of course, but nowhere close to how they are in the comic. In the comics, it's like I need a joke a panel is how it's going, and the problem is the jokes are usually at the villain's expense. The character makes some joke about how the villain is pathetic. The villain then, makes a dumb comment back that, indicates that, yeah, the villain is pathetic. And then they go back and forth like this for a while, and then, fairly easily dispatched. And I've talked about villains before, on this channel of just, you need strong villains. You need threatening villains. You need something for the hero to overcome. The reason why you have a strong villain is not because you secretly believe in evil and you like to murder people. The reason you have a strong villain is because it gives the hero a challenge. And when the hero overcomes that challenge, it's a heroic moment. It's a big moment. But when the villain is joking about like dinosaur pee, or, there's a joke in Spider-Woman where it's like, they made a cure out of your DNA. It's like, so you've got his DNA inside of you? It's like, oh, that didn't come off well. It's like, just come on. What are you, in third grade? It's terrible. How can things simultaneously be elementary school jokes and old man dad jokes at the same time? It's like somebody went and bought like a book of puns and is just throwing this in there. It was a painful run of these comics, and nothing against humor. And you can be quick to point out, Spider-Man used to quip and joke, but Spider-Man also had some really heavy moments. Spider-Man knew when to shut up and let the scene actually play out and be dangerous. When Spider-Man was going after Green Goblin, and Goblin killed Gwen Stacy, and kind of that battle, and Spider-Man's grief and rage at that moment, Spider-Man didn't go, "Hey, your neck's all floppy. Oh, hey, I'm going to call you Floppy Girl. Hey, Floppy Girl, why aren't you talking? Oh, does the Goblin got your tongue? Oh man, they don't. It would wreck the moment. So and this is where a lot of the comics, frankly, at Marvel are right now. They're infected with this stuff. And as more and more writers go from Marvel to DC, you see the same thing going on over there. Now, I don't want every comic book to be Alan Moore, dark, unfunny, people getting raped every page. I don't want any of that. I just, I think that when the comics do this and it's poorly done, it feels like the comics are not taking themselves seriously. And so then why do I at $4.99 a pop need to take it seriously? I'm not going to if that's where it's at. So anyway, I'm curious. So what do you feel? Do you feel like do you feel too much, too little? Do you like the jokes? There are definitely some people on the channel who've pushed back on this past. Go, nope, the humor is wonderful. Spider Woman as a comic is a treasure. Well, was a treasure because it's canceled now, but it's this is how all comics should be. And I think there is an audience that likes this kind of stuff. I just question how big that audience is, and do they need 40 books a month that are all written in that same way? I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.